Hi, this is Eli Ochiltree of the SnoKing Beekeepers Association, and this is our December meeting, which instead of being on the third December, is on the third Wednesday in December, is on the second Wednesday in December. And I think a lot of people are going to miss this meeting. So we're going to record it. And the purpose of the meeting today, which is December 13th, 2023, is to kind of put together a list that we can put on our Facebook discussion group for SnoKing Beekeepers and actually publish it on the website, which is, we have a links and resources page, which dead ends. In case anybody's ever clicked on it, you go, it says coming soon. And this would be really great, would be if we put together what we actually use and what we really think just has something really neat. So I think we'd better just do this very informally and everybody interrupt me, okay? This is not an official presentation, but I really think there's so many great sources out there and they change. I was trying to find some of mine and I couldn't find them. So maybe the same thing, maybe there's better new ones coming up. So what I have is I've just had my working PowerPoint up because I figured, well, it's kind of a working session for us, right? So I can go through it slide by slide. Let's see. I think if I make these real big, you could kind of well, would that work? Let me see if that works. Or if maybe I better do the slideshow one. If I start with this view, the slide sorter view, I don't know how many people really use PowerPoint. I have learned to live on PowerPoint right now. Oh, it wants me to know what I want to do. Let's try 200 and see what that says. Okay, that's not bad. We can do 3 at a time. Oh, I did want to make some announcements. There's always something really special going on that we're going to miss. In beekeeping, the hardest thing we have is we just can't get the word out on something before it's already finished. And sometimes we don't say anything because we don't know how good it's going to be until it already happens. If you went to the first weekend in October conference, WASBA's annual conference that they do, they promised when people registered that there would be recordings available of the talks. That's not going to happen for a number of reasons. There was one really good talk that I know has been redone and is available online. It's available at the Facebook live stream that is called Ask a Beekeeper. So I start up here with the link and the title, Fat Bodies and Honeybee Lifespan by Dawn Beck, whose name you hear if you go to WASBA board meetings, go to conferences. She's a master beekeeper both under University of Montana, which is accepted by here in Washington State, and she is finishing her master beekeeper over with Cornell because they have a very much more advanced detailed program than we have or that the University of Montana has. Cornell, of course, has great reputation. So she's doing that, and this talk is really, really important because recently there are trends in beekeeping, and this is the one about the fat bodies and the vitellogenin and your winter bees versus your summer bees. So there is a link to it. It was a Facebook live stream that's still up. I don't know how long they stay up, and you can find it. So I want to put that on the list. And then discussion groups, which is a great way for us to get resources. So can people actually read this, or is it too small a print?
Would you be able to put that link in the chat, like copy and paste it?
Yeah, and then we're going to make a document out of this and have all the
Okay.
links in there. Yeah, but right now, for example, I think I can't. Oops, wait a minute. I think that. Also, if you've never used PowerPoint, this is actually how it actually goes. Okay, Control copy over to chat. And then if you click that, which is a good thing to do, people can test it and make sure it works, that it actually does go there. And she just did a wonderful job putting the information together. I don't think there's a talk like that out there on the internet. And that's the kind of unique thing that I'm hoping we can find, plus the other stuff. And then people are looking for groups, I know. If you've taken the journeyman class or are taking it or above, then you're eligible to come to the first Wednesday of each month. That's not January 1st. I think it's January 3rd is the first Wednesday. Yes, January 3rd. I'll change that right now. How's that? If I can. Okay, January 3rd, to the trophallaxis. And of course, there's a cute little picture of trophallaxis there. Bees sharing and communicating. Kind of gross mouth to mouth if you think about it that way. But bees do a lot of things that sound really weird to us. So I send the Zoom link out. I do want to make sure people really are ready for it. If you are a Washington Master Beekeeper, the other program that's parallel to WASBA, to the Washington State Beekeepers Association, that's fine. If you're a journeyman or master under that, that's great. Come on and join us. Just ask for the Zoom link. If you're below that level, we have the Hive Mind, which meets tomorrow. Second Thursday, I saw Gina send out an email. If you want the Zoom link, again, you email her, ginacuff@gmail.com. And it's she started out teaching beginner to get some service points for a journeyman certificate. And she liked the group, and the group kind of stayed together, and then they added more people. So it's kind of a nice once a month check-in. She said that Jen, you're in it. Hey Jen, you explain it, okay? How it's going, what you talk about. I'm gonna call on people.
Sorry, yes. Yeah, it's great. We just get together and Gina shares what she's been doing and we all share, and it's really helpful to kind of hear stuff from the beginner class kind of reiterated in real life and at the season that we're in. So it's been really great.
I was thinking about dropping in. I'm never available on Thursdays.
Oh yeah.
You think that'd
Yeah.
be kind of okay?
Yeah, I think that'd
Okay.
be awesome.
Yeah. I was thinking because it's really wonderful that she's been doing that.
I know. I love it. It's
I
been really
know.
good.
And it's the kind of thing we just need to get going. Networking, communicating is the hardest thing for all of us have other lives in beekeeping. I know that's hard to believe, but but we do have other lives like holiday plans, and things we need to be doing the second Wednesday of December. But I figured the third Wednesday would be worse. I might have been wrong. So let's see. Well, maybe I should kind of do this slide by slide. If you're looking for groups, okay, anybody have a favorite group here that they go to? Uh, there's wasba.org. You can always go there and see what information is on that website. There's the Western Apicultural Society. I really wanted to go to their conference. They had it up in Calgary, I think it was. When was that? They've already had it. It sounded really neat to go up there for a Western, because Canada is actually part of the Western Apicultural Society. So, and they have great webinars, great talks. If you are a member, I'm sure you can get to the recordings, which they frequently do have things recorded. WASBA is still working out the recording issues. The Zoom meetings are okay, but anytime they do something fancy, they've now had 2 conferences that they did not get the recording figured out. I just discovered SBGMI, Sustainable Beekeepers Group of Michigan, and they are looking for alternatives to varroa chemical treatments. Okay, usually I'm really leery of that, right? I mean, come on, treatment free, but they're looking. They may not be succeeding. That they're talking about, one thing they're talking about is things like condensing hives. Has anybody heard that term, condensing hives? It's like after vitellogen and the fat bees and the winter bees. Okay, this is kind of the next one that's sort of a trend that comes up. And condensing hives, the idea of no upper vent, you let the bees control their own humidity, heat, ventilation by giving them something that's as close to a natural cavity, for example, in a hollow tree trunk, where they wouldn't have huge entrances and they wouldn't have thin walls and all those things that we do to our bees. There was an interesting Facebook discussion post, right? That was really neat. Who put that up? Was that Sandra? Somebody put that up about how it's cruel to keep bees in thin-walled hives with drafts going past them. It was really neat. I see Heidi going, yeah. It was okay. What's really weird is I used to be the IACUC contact. Can I remember what it stands for? It's like IUCAC. It's the International Uniform Code for Animal Care. When you keep animals in a lab, you have to not just keep them barely alive, but for example, you have little mice, you have to give them like something bedding to play with. You can't keep them on bare surfaces. That's too unnatural and too stressful. If you had a rat, you'd have to give it like wheels or an exercise area. And it's a humane consideration. In case you didn't know that, there is a uniform code for animal care by Laboratory Animal Care. Well, this Derek Mitchell, he wrote an article and he did it to get attention, I think. But his solution, part of it is the condensing hive, that the bees should control the humidity. And it's a fascinating topic. And they get into some interesting topics. I don't agree with everything, but I always like to find out. There are all kinds of places that have webinars that are recorded and you can go in and look. The Ohio State University, you go to that link. I could put that in the chat too. That one takes you to, it's over it's over, oops, let me see if I can do this. It's over in Ohio, but at least it's a little bit north. It's not totally down in the subtropical part of the United States. Let me see if I can do this again. Okay, if you want to go look at their list. Okay, now this is where I really am looking. Anybody have other groups that they know have webinars, recordings, regular meetings that they really like to go to? Anybody discovered anything? You can email me later. And actually, almost every bee club has some kind of a website. For example, I can do yours, I think, from memory. Michael Duncan here. So it's EJ Bees, bees.com. Did I get that right? No, EJ.
We have two, the ejbees.com and then the ejbees.org, I think.
Yeah.
There's one's our blog site, which they post all the videos and stuff, and then the other one is more of our announcements, meetings, minutes, and that kind of stuff.
Do you actually write bees out?
I don't know.
Okay, somebody try it. Somebody try it, okay? But and they're different. The two are different, right? One is more like
Yes.
the club business, and one is more interesting articles and such.
Yep.
If you go to okay, there's Puget Sound Beekeepers Association, which also has a YouTube channel, just as we do. A lot of the bee clubs actually are starting to get with the tech. So anybody else? I think Puget Sound Beekeepers, I think you just look up Puget Sound Beekeepers Association.org. And you'll get, okay, the important thing about Puget Sound Beekeepers is they have a like demonstration hive apiary area in the Washington Arboretum. If you're from Seattle, you know the it's by lake, it's on the edge of Lake Washington, on the shore of Lake Washington, near the University of Washington. There's a huge arboretum that was funded a long time ago. There's a whole bunch of these though. If you look, and the way to find them is to go to wasba.org up here. And I think it says something about local organizations. If you go to that website and you go to the local, everybody should find, and you often can attend the meetings, like ours are free and open to the public. And you often pick up a lot of information, and reading the newsletters. Some of the newsletters give you, and if you could go back, like our newsletters, we now go back 2 or 3 years on our website, the SnoKingBK.org. And if you're looking for what people were thinking or doing in September, you can look back a couple of years. If it's September and you're trying to look at what's coming up, they're actually a good way to know what people's concerns were. The better written ones. Some are not that well written, not that much effort in them. Oh, and if you write articles, and always, I know I do promote for articles, you get like 2 service credits toward your journeyman service credit. And I think even with master, if you continue to write articles for newsletters, you continue to gain some points there. So if there's something you'd like to talk about, even if it's like what Scott was saying for his podcast, was it, I think, I don't know, maybe Jen came in a little bit late, and Scott and David, I've got a slide coming up with podcast on it. They're doing Teach Me Bees, and that gives you a chance to talk about different topics, and presentations count and such. And okay, I probably better go on and get to the podcast slide. And then if Scott wanted to talk some more, because there's a lot of things that people do in beekeeping. How your first year went. How did you get to where you are? Did you expand? Did you, like me, expand once and say, never again am I going to have an out apiary, hives all over the place that I don't have easy access to? I don't have the time, the energy. That's not me. Whereas Michael will be happy to explain to you, oh, it's no problem. Have a couple of hives here and a couple of hives there and get to know everybody in the area. Yeah. Okay, no groups. If you think of something, email it to me, okay? Because I really want this to be a really nice list that really helps us out. And I can't believe nobody has anything on the wish list. The wish list that I started on the Facebook discussion group. Last year, everybody had fun with it. This year, there's nothing on there. People were saying, get the neck fan that cools. Yeah, you know, these little neck fans are personal neck fans for cooling, and they go under your hood. And some people do them so the air goes this way and blows your CO2 and your vapor off, your breath away, and the bees don't come and land right on your veil, right in front of your eyes. So that you end up cross-eyed. And then the other people said, no, get the ones that your hair can't get caught in, turn them around and have it blow up the back of your neck. They said that's wonderful.
I want books. Anything on Ava Crane or beekeeping history.
Oh, Eva Crane's beekeeping, the one.
I've read her archaeology of beekeeping, but I haven't been able to get a copy of that one that you have that you pull from occasionally.
Oh, you can. It's just gonna
That's on my wish list.
$150. Oh, where is it?
I tried to get a hold of that download print thing and I couldn't seem to make it happen. So that one's still on my wish list.
You couldn't download Eva
No,
Crane.
it was that print on demand or whatever it was.
Oh, print under. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's not a problem.
I couldn't make it work. I couldn't figure out how to get a hold of them or make it work. It didn't go through.
Was it Abe Books that
It
I
might
got
have been
there?
Abe Books, but yeah.
Okay, warning everybody, the world history of beekeeping and honey hunting by Eva Crane is 160 minimum. I've never seen it for less. It's out of print, so what they're doing is they're doing the print on demand, which I guess is really popular for books like that. New, the book would be $200+. And I feel lucky to have gotten the reprint. And okay, I'll have to look for it's a gorgeous book. It's like the Snodgrass black and white illustrations, which when we get to the anatomy slide, that's the illustrations you always see. Well, Eva Crane was this incredible woman who spent her life, much like Kim Flottam, who just died recently and was working with the Beekeeping Today podcast. He wrote a book that I'm going to recommend it highly for beginners. He wrote a number of books. He spent an entire life in beekeeping and especially beekeeping education and working with beekeepers. Eva Crane traveled the world at a time when I didn't think women traveled the world in the 50s, 60s, went into Asia and all kinds of places. And in this humongous book, she has the pictures that you frequently see on the internet. If someone is talking about the history of beekeeping and they're
Wanna go
talking
over and
about
wave hi?
Egypt or Crete or how
Come
they
over
do
here
it in
by me.
Indonesia, she is the person who went
Just real
there,
quick though.
got a lot of those pictures, got them together,
Wait a minute.
actually talked to the tribesmen. It's a fascinating book, but $160 is a
There you
little
go.
steep. Okay. Oh, hi. We all have to say hi to Michael Duncan's granddaughter. Sorry. It's
Why?
tradition. It's her tradition.
Why is that book so expensive?
Why? It's out of print. It was one of those monumental works. I I probably have it next to my bed is what I do. It's a humongous book. No one will ever do it again. Eva Crane also did Honey. Look that title up, Honey, Eva Crane with a C. And
Yep.
again, she is the only person who put it all together in one place. And she didn't just look at honey, she looked at the chemical composition, down to the ash content sort of thing throughout the world, which plants, which species of which plants were the ones that were the had such and such value. Again, people use her charts and tables. For example, if you go to Beekeeper's Handbook, which is one that I'm always recommending, that's the one. Here's an old version of it, that Beekeeper's Handbook. And I'm always using this when I teach my classes. It has the black and white illustrations. I'm always using black and white illustrations. Yeah, be very suspicious. Okay, her books are just like, they're incredible. They're even better than this. This one is about the only thing I know of that after the basic beginner books that you can go to. Does anyone else know of another source? Have you seen another good, Karen's Honeybee Biology is almost, I would say, intermediate. I have a quick picture of the cover later. Okay, moving on though. I'm just can't believe, yeah, wish list. Books is not bad. Gift certificates is not bad. But I was really waiting for the thing you had to have. I don't know, nose ring with bees on it or something that was just the thing people had to have for beekeepers this year. Okay. Did get a request from Colleen Epkin who said she can't make it. Does anybody have more books? And I know that Jacqueline Freeman is too hippie for me, but a lot of people love her. She's very poetic and artistic, and you live and you're one with the bees, you know. So I know she does that. So some of her books go to audio. I think Song of Increase might be on audio. Who did Secret Life of Bees? I think that was a different woman that did kind of a diary of that. Colleen said that The Beekeeper of Aleppo is a little bit serious, but it's a good read. It's Syrian refugees from the war go to England and beekeeping there's a man there who's keeping bees, and it kind of helps bring everybody together working on a project. I don't know what Tomb of the Honeybee is, but I was looking to see, hey, there's got to be a whole bunch of great books out there on bees, right? And okay, send me the names if anybody has them. She said she'd really like some more good reads and fiction. And then after fiction, there's kind of the lighter, easier flow. I just finally read The Buzz About Bees. I bet everybody else has already read this, right? It was a very popular book back a decade ago. Is it still popular? Is anyone reading this? It's a good read about an overview of bees. Somebody had a question about bees dying headfirst in their cells. Why in a dead out do you find them headfirst in the cells? And it's actually because they're heater bees that are shivering the thoracic muscles, and they do that in the comb to heat the comb. Because if they just heat the air would rise. So they heat the comb, and the bees are clustering inside between the combs and holding heat there. But Tom Seeley, everybody hears about honeybee democracy. I liked the first half of the book. Come on, somebody's got an opinion on this, on one of these. And The Lives of Bees. The second half of Tom Seeley's book, he got really into sociology and people ought to be like bees, and I got kind of lost. Okay. But The Buzz About Bees, that was, I thought, actually a fairly easy read. And he deliberately leaves citations out until the end. His bibliography's at the end because he intended to make it easy to read. And that is probably why he got it translated into 10 languages, I think at last count. Because Jürgen Taust is actually a German. So it was actually written in German, but English is a Germanic language. So I think it translated very well. Any ideas in here? Something I'm missing that was kind of a read that you could sit down and pick up and actually read? Movies. I couldn't come up with any movies except Yuli's Gold, which was not totally about beekeeping. Okay, everybody's homework is we're going to find something that this does. Nope. Beginner books. What's your favorite beginner book? Okay, how many people really want me to put Beekeeping for Dummies up here? It's okay. You can tell me. I won't make fun of you. When I first saw Beekeeping for Dummies, I thought it was terrible. Then I saw the later editions, and I thought they were much better. So if you're like me and you didn't give it a chance, okay. But I still like Story's Guide to Keeping Bees, which is in your feed stores, incidentally. If you go to the Snohomish Co-op, either in Snohomish or Monroe. I didn't put queen spotting in here. Okay. I gotta figure out what category that goes under. It's, I don't know what to call it. I don't know what category. I'll put it under. Okay, queen spotting is, maybe I better put it here. It's not really a beginner's book, but anybody can enjoy it. Oops. I think it's all one word, queen spotting. And it has fold out pages of pictures of frames with thousands of bees on there, and you're trying to find the queen. It's Where's Waldo with queen bees. And I agree with most people who say, but I find the queen by the way she moves. But if she stops to lay an egg, that's when I miss her. Anybody else have that problem? I'm looking for the queen. I'm looking for the queen. I go through the frames, then I have to go through them the second time. Then I see her. And I guess she's just busy laying eggs. And when she lays eggs, she sticks half her abdomen down, so I can't see it. And the other bees are right around her, so maybe I don't see her head. And all you get to see is maybe the back of her thorax, that cleft, or that it's a little shinier. Or maybe her wings are out and they're too long. And that's how you know that it's the queen. It's a very tricky book. It actually was a really fun book. We should at least get one and pass it around. Anybody, come on, somebody's got something. Honeybee biology, I think, goes from beginner into intermediate. What do you, anybody else think so? I don't know if this is the newest version. Always make sure you get the newest version. Keeping honeybees, only the second edition is good. First edition is garbage. Sorry, it's just so out of date and it wasn't that well written. Backyard Beekeeper might be good. It's on like 5th edition now, and that's Kim Flottam, who just died this last week. Honeybee Biology is by Dewey Caron, who is another longtime person who has spent his life in beekeeping education. And it's considered the standard college textbook, beginning level college text. So I guess it really probably should go in intermediate. And in the new version, he added like 50, 80 pages. I saw it at the conference. It was very impressive. It's a lot longer. So I wasn't impressed by the first edition, but now he's in 3rd or 4th. Make sure you get the newest one. And it covers everything, a little of everything about beekeeping. It's like 300 pages or something, but really with color, well laid out and easy to read for a textbook. Okay, podcast. Okay, now we're up to there. Okay, Scott, I know it was before the recording, so why don't you put something on the recording? And David didn't show up, so he left it to you to talk about.
That's all good. It's all good.
Okay.
For those of you who are watching later or who didn't listen to me earlier, that's fine. Me and Dave are starting a beekeeping company, and part of that we're starting a podcast. Actually, it's already started going. It's called Teach Me Bees, where we talk about beekeeping, what we're learning, but we also want to bring guests on. We want to have most of our episodes with guests, and so we want to bring in backyard beekeepers, people who have a year of experience or decades of experience. Someone who talks about their honey selling experience, or maybe they don't sell honey. You have one hive, whatever it is. It's a wide spectrum of things you can talk about. And so we'd love to invite anyone that's part of SnoKing. Email me, scott@honeyforhope.org, and or other people outside of the association. It's great. We're just looking for guests that we'd love to schedule time to talk and invite you onto the show. So yeah, let me know if you're interested.
It was honeyforhope.org.
Yep.
Okay, and then, oops, there's no space in there. And then, was it Dave or David? He's the same, right?
Dave@honeyforhope.org. Yeah.
Okay, so he's Dave. One
And
thing,
we're in Monroe as well. So if you're super close by, you could totally come to our property and record the podcast with us, or we can do it over Zoom or something like that too.
how long are you looking for?
How long of an episode? Roughly about 30 minutes or so, 30 to 40 minutes. And like we talk about bees and stuff, but we also have fun. Like we can crack jokes and talk about whatever's going on in life too. And so it's not just strictly academic kind of thing, but it's fun as well. So love to have you on there.
What I'd really like to see is somebody just profile a beekeeper a week. Just a beekeeper. And they just talk a little bit about what they do and what they think, and are they worried? I mean, if they're worried about climate change or something like that, they could talk about that, but maybe they just want to say, I like having bees. It's often hard to explain that you don't keep them for the honey. You keep them because you like bees.
Yeah.
They're addictive after you have them for a while. So it's kind of nice if we could have a place to say things like that. I need a safe zone. You're promising to be a safe zone, right?
Well, we definitely are. You're welcome to come. Let us know whenever you want, and we'll find a time.
And there are people who make their own equipment. They're really good at do it yourself. There's a lot of skills out there. There are the people who scale up. Hey, Heidi, you should do this. You should talk about your business, okay? I'm putting you on the spot. I know, but it might be the easiest way to do it, even if you hate talking in public. I'm kind of thinking that could be kind of safe. Yeah. Would you believe that 5 or 10 years ago I couldn't talk in public at all?
I don't believe that.
No, I really was hopeless at it, and the only way the bee club was going to happen is if I did it. So
You're doing great.
yeah, well, thanks. But it's just that I don't. It's a nice safe zone. I'd really like to hear about from all the beekeepers out there, what they're doing. One gal I know, I don't know if she would. Maybe she would. She catches swarms. She's in a place that the swarms land there. And sometimes you're just on sort of the flight path of some commercial beekeeper who can't possibly catch all their swarms. And one time I went out to her place and picked up nuke boxes of swarms. The only thing was she needed people to bring more frames in. That was a really interesting story. And I've met other people who are where you pick up swarms, and people like me who never see a swarm land on their property. Yeah. Okay. So that's kind of nice because that's kind of a small. I hope everybody will kind of tune in. How do you find the link to get to your podcast? You go to honeyforhope.org.
Yeah, you can go there and find a link to it too, or you can just search Teach Me Bees on any podcast platform and it should be there.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So like the
Yep.
same as The Way to Be with Frederick Dunn, who's well known.
Yep.
Oh,
Spotify, Apple, whatever you use, Google,
yeah.
whatever Google's is, I don't even know, but yeah, should be on all major platforms.
Oh, neat. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Because Frederick Dunn is one of the ones I listen to, but he's a device, do it yourself, backyard research type guy, and he interviews people. But yeah, it's different
Hmm.
every one of them is different. I think Jeff Ott's Beekeeping Today is more national, if not international. I think he makes a point of bringing in people that are not at all local. And of course, Frederick Dunn isn't because he's way over in Pennsylvania or New York. I think Pennsylvania. But at least he's up to the north. All right. Oh, Duncan, you put in being. Is that a fiction or a nonfiction? I've heard of it. Okay, it's in the chat.
Oh, the book Being,
Yeah.
that's a biography.
Okay, so
It's
that's
about her first year of beekeeping and her challenges and struggles. It's a really good read. It's a really good book.
okay. Being, and who was it by? Wrote. I'm always technically challenged. Roseanne Daryl Thomas.
Daryl Thomas, yeah.
Okay. Let me see if I can do that.
We have it in our West Sound Club library, and
And
that's where I picked it up and read it.
do you mail from there or you have in-person meetings and people can get to the
When Stedman's was open, we had the library there at Stedman's Bee Supply. So we'd just go in the back room and we would self-check out the books. We'd just fill out a library card and put it in the stack and take the book home. And it was kind of an honor system.
So Stedman's was a bee supply company over by Quilcene,
Silverdale.
Silverdale, that area.
Yeah, that was our West Sound beekeeping clubs. They were hosting our library. And unfortunately, with the honor system, we've lost almost all of our historical books and everything. We went down from about 250 titles to barely 100 titles that are left in that library.
People forget. I mean, I like to think of it that way. I'm pretty sure it really is like that. People forget.
Yeah.
Okay. Anatomy. Should enter there. That's the topic is anatomy. Okay. I like this one about, it's based on the worker bee. That's my personal favorite, Honeymaker. How the honeybee worker does what she does. And it's not a very large book. The photographs are black and white, but it's the way that Rosanna Mattingly talks about the worker honeybee that I find interesting. So if you get a chance to look at that book. And Clarence Collision, I thought I put a picture of his, I guess I didn't put a picture of his book here. He's a longtime professor, and this book is a little more advanced because he starts quoting research papers and talking about what is important about every part of a bee's body. I don't know if everybody's heard this, but the honeybee is a flying Swiss Army knife of the insect world because every little teeny weeny part of its body is designed for something. It has the little antenna cleaner, uh, kind of a bend in its front legs so it can clean antennas. It has the pollen baskets on the hind legs. The middle legs have the tibial spur that they can pick up wax flakes out of their abdomen and hand them off to other bees or move them up to their own mandibles. Every part of their mouth is very complicated. It so he gets really into it. If you really want to get into anatomy, that guy gets into it. And then Duncan was saying right before we started this, the anatomy of the honeybee. Snodgrass is the one that you see the black and white drawings everywhere. And he did a number of rewrites. Michael was saying they're very substantial. And the last one was 1956. But those are the black and white drawings you most often will see. Tom Seeley, everybody uses them when they discuss bees. So if you're really into anatomy, if you're heading in that direction, I made a category for books and paragraphs. You don't want to read the whole book. You just want to pick it up and read a paragraph at a time. There's the ABC XYZ of beekeeping. And there's one called the Beekeeper's Bible. Who has a favorite? Sometimes you have the cooking recipes in them. I think Beekeeper's Bible is like that. And you just read a little bit at a time. It's not like you have to read it beginning to end. Anybody got a favorite honey cookbook or something that kind of goes under that category?
I've read most of the Beekeeper's Bible, and I really like it. So just
And,
recommend it.
and is it like that? It's kind of, you can pick it
Yeah,
up.
you pick it up wherever you want to, whatever topic, or it's got some history, it's got some beginning things, it's got recipes, it's got different honey things, got a variety of stuff. But I really like it.
I think of them as the Farmer's Almanac. That's why there's a little, there's that little caterpillar on there. I'm gonna forget what that's called. That caterpillar, when the brown band gets bigger or smaller, it's supposed to tell you whether you're going to have a hard winter or an easy winter, whether it's going to be super cold or not. And it's part of the folklore that you'd find on something like the Farmer's Almanac. But that's an easy read book too. That's one of those you pick it up, you read a little, and then you put it back down again. Jokes. Scott, you mentioned jokes. Have you discovered the beekeeping jokes are still there? 365 beekeeping jokes, one for each day of the year. Uh-oh, I need another one because we're kind of coming up on a leap year, aren't we? Is 2024 a leap year? I'll have to have another one, find another one and put it in there. But it's still there on the SnoKingBeekeepers.org website. And you click on bee tips and trivia and go to bee jokes. And all the jokes are still there that we put up. Is that a year ago? 2 years ago. We put those up. Yeah, I think it was 2022. We put them up one a day for all year. So that's, again, something you can check in and not feel like you have to read a whole book. Okay, I need native pollinators. Anybody have anything for the native pollinators? I can get you information. There's one monthly meeting where we went through a whole bunch of different resources, posters, brochures, things you could download from online if you wanted to talk about native pollinators or present on them. But I bet there's some really good books out there. Okay, let me know if anything comes up. Posters. I have the high resolution, huge digital file downloads for a lot of posters, like a dozen of them. So if you ever need one on pollination, native pollinators, pollinators in the forest, there's a number. Oh, bumblebees of the eastern United States, the western United States. Now, see, this would be a great Christmas present, I think. You get the download and you take it to your favorite UPS or whatever printing service, and you get them to print it out for you and frame it. I mean, who wouldn't want, 400, I guess about 200 bumblebees on your wall? I mean, perfect. And intermediate level, all I can think of is a beekeeper's handbook. That's not really easy reading. But see, we've already filled up most people's rainy seasons already. Oh, this is where I put Clarence Collison. I guess his name is probably Collison. I keep putting an extra I in there. It gets a little intense on the basic honeybee biology. Heidi is reading it, right? And Heidi is going to tell us it's a great book, right? Or has had no time to read it.
After Christmas.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
back
The
into my
downtime
books.
isn't going to hit
Yeah.
until Christmas.
Yeah.
I think that's true of a lot of people. So I'm kind of hoping that this will help people look at something. And I was going to warn people, don't buy this honeybee biology thinking it's the other honeybee biology. This one is really intense. I just bought it from somebody who thought it was the other one, which is readable for beginners. And I think it goes into intermediate. No, this one you start getting into the little mass spectrometry type gas chromatography and that kind of stuff. I think that's what that chart there is. And graphs, it gets really technical fast. Good read if you're researching something, but not for most people. I mean, there are people who read technical manuals for relaxation. We still love you, but reading frames. This is a thing that I found mostly at YouTube. I think this is YouTube. There's some people who are doing a lot of work, not a lot of work, but they've done some really good videos where they show you a frame and they read the frame, read the hive. And when you go in and you're a beginner, do you remember being told, go inspect your hives at least every 2 weeks? And somebody forgot to tell you what you were supposed to do when you went inside the hive. They actually have pictures on videos that these have. I didn't get all the YouTube links. If anybody happens to have them, send them to me. And I spelled his name wrong again. Sorry, put an extra I in there. And these have all done some YouTube videos that they sit there and they say, okay, here's the bee bread. And then they evaluate and say, okay, at this time of the year, this is a reasonable amount of compactness or lack of compactness. Sometimes toward the end of the summer, have other people noticed that sometimes the queen isn't laying in as compact a pattern? But it's still okay. She's okay. It's not really spotty, but they talk about that. They'll sit there and say, this is a smaller brood nest because it's early in the season or late in the season. Here it is completely, the queen has laid out almost to the edges, the corners of the frame. And when Ian Stepler did it, Ian Stepler is a Canadian Beekeepers blog. And it's funny to recommend him in a way because he's commercial. But when he talks about his hives, he talks about them and explains things. And when he was looking at his colonies last fall, when he discovered that apivar had started to really seriously fail. Anybody relying on apivar strips, you are warned. They're not working about half the time, people are saying. If you were counting on that, those white apivar strips that go, is it 2 per deep? I'm thinking it's 2 per deep. I can't remember. I'd have to read the directions. But those plastic strips that hang down, they're slow release of the toxic chemical. He had always relied on those. And he thought at first when he went through going through his hives that he'd forgotten to put them in or that the batch was defective. And then he realized the resistance of the mites was just too high. So he got wiped out pretty badly with that. Maybe that was a whole year ago that happened. And he had to buy 300 nukes, which there went his profits for the year as a commercial beekeeper, because he had to replace all the hives he lost. But he talks to you as he's going through, he's lifting up the frame and he's saying, I know there's a good laying queen here. I don't even need to see her because I see, and then he tells you what he sees on the frame. Come on out to the apiaries and we'll practice trying to do that. I don't think I could do it that well. There is everything on the YouTube. Do you have a favorite that's really weird? Okay, Colleen was one of the people that sent me in some suggestions for this talk. And she said she likes to draw, but she's only really ever done technical drawing. But she watched this video of Frederick Dunn on his way to bee, just drawing a bee and talking as he went along about bee facts. I can't imagine doing that. Drawing number one, and then talking intelligently and coherently while I'm doing it about bee facts. So is there a really great YouTube video that's really unusual like that? I find, let's see. Okay, did that. Oh, my favorite YouTube videos often are from the UK, from the United Kingdom, and they're through the National Honey Show. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because they aren't as subject to trends as we are, but they will put some really interesting stuff in there. For example, this one in the lower left is about how varroa mites hide from the bees in plain sight. Worker bees look right at this thing that's the size of like a basketball sticking out of their fellow bee, and they don't notice it's there because bees aren't seeing, they're smelling and sensing chemicals. And mites can mimic the pheromones of the bees. And they can change pheromones. They can do it so well that their pheromones match the age of the bee that they're on within something like 30 minutes of getting on that bee. It's amazing. I don't know how they do it. I think this Ricarda Cather, she did the presentation for National Honey Show, and they have some really interesting ones like that. The life cycles of wasps and hornets. If you've ever wondered why your yellow jackets won't take the bait in the spring that they take in the summer, but then they go back to it in the fall, and you're always sitting there saying, wait a minute, do they want sweets or meat? Sweet or meat? And sometimes you just give up and give them both, which is probably the best solution. But he explains why. It's really neat on the life cycle, why there's this switch and why you're trying to put one kind of bait out and they're not taking it at that time of the year, but they would take the other one. So I think I'm going to become an advocate of just put out both sweet and meat. Yellow jackets have been a major problem this year. And I was looking for shorts. When you want 5 minutes on how to light a smoker, or you want a quick review on how to do a split, or a quick review on how to introduce a queen or something, there are a few online free resources for that. I couldn't make Merrick work. I'll type out what it is. Merrick is I relied on them for years. Atlantic Apiculture research. Oh dear, something. Oh, I think extension consortium. Okay, is that a weird name or what? That long name was a whole bunch of states got together on the mid-Atlantic side of the United States. Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, right down the coast there. And they got together and pulled their resources and they put together a lot of fact sheets and videos. And I was looking for the videos because those are shorts. They're often only 4 or 5, maybe 10 minutes long, and they tell you how to do one specific task. Those are really helpful. Does anybody have a good source? Because Merrick, I can't make it work. I can get the fact sheets, but my old link doesn't work. However, University of Guelph, try this one out. Let me put this in chat because this one is really good. Crafts. Did I put crafts? I kind of put crafts in somebody. Yeah, Pat was saying we got to have something on crafts. I got one slide coming up on that. But try that. Oh, did I send that? Did I do that right? Yes. Okay. So I'm looking for another one that's like that University of Guelph, which is by the Great Lakes, Ontario, where Canada comes down below the 49th parallel. So it's actually farther south, but they do have our maritime climate. So I kind of trust what they say better than I trust the good old boys in Georgia and Alabama, even though they're very nice people, but they don't have winters there. Okay, I need a do-it-yourselfers, devices, backyard experiments type category. I guess Randy Oliver and Frederick Dunn kind of go in that. And here we go, hide products and candle making. Come on, where's your favorite book on crafts and such? On how to?
Okay, I like one called the Beeswax Workshop.
Okay. Is it the, I probably better put the on there because I bet
Yeah,
do you know who
it's
the
by
author is?
Chris Dalziel, Dalziel.
Okay. D-A-L-I.
No, Dalziel. Yeah, Chris.
With a K or a,
Chris, Chris Dalziel.
okay, Christelle.
It was how to make your own natural candles, cosmetics, cleaners, soaps, healing balms, and more.
Okay. I
Yeah, a
think,
lot of neat stuff.
some of that's in what you call a paragraph book, but yeah, just a craft one. And so it covers a little of everything. That's neat.
Yeah.
Beeswax is so good. It is aromatherapy just to have a beeswax candle burning. They are so wonderful. See, and like the crochet, we need the crochet patterns for those cute bees. We should have those. I used to crochet many years ago. Okay, that's about all I have. I bet people have all kinds. Let me finish reading the chat. Okay, and we have Heidi says, yes, that's a great book. The Beeswax Workshop. Okay, and here's one. Oh, Washington Native Bee Society.org. Okay. Whoops. I'm not gonna get this. Okay.
Going back to prints and posters, Eli,
Yeah,
I don't know if you guys can see this one.
I have to stop sharing. Let me stop sharing. And, uh, okay, if I stop share, which is a good thing to do because then everybody
Oh.
else can. Oh,
Let's see there.
so who did that?
Well, that's the problem. I went out and grabbed it, and it's on Native Bees of Washington, and the artist didn't put her name down at the bottom. And one of my family members got it for me for Christmas just a week ago.
Mhm.
It's one of his clients in Tacoma, so I could probably find out how to get it. But it's
Yeah.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 watercolor little paintings of
Mhm.
bees of the Pacific Northwest, and it's basically the bumblebees. And they got the metallic sweat bee, blue orchard bee, longhorned bees.
Yeah, if you find that, and then Oregon State University has the best actually on a lot of the native bee. They are way ahead
Yep.
of Washington State. So the Oregon State University bee program is so good that a lot of people in the northwestern part of the state are driving down there to actually do the master beekeeper program through Oregon State University. And they even have a program to become a melitologist. That's a person who can ID the different species of bees. Now, you wouldn't think that's very hard until you find out that there are probably thousands of native bees in Washington and Oregon, at least hundreds, and quite possibly thousands. So for the people who are joining late, we are doing our best to record this. It is kind of informal. Anybody have anything else they want to share? We're trying to get ideas on all these different categories. Let me put the categories back up. Let's see, I do that by sharing screen again. And then if I do slide sorter, that kind of shows. Okay, that's the end. So if you came in a little late, we kind of went through the announcements. There's a really good talk by Don Beck that you can find the recording on Facebook live stream, and we put that link into the chat. I don't know how long it lasts. WASBA is doing this thing called Ask a Beekeeper on Thursdays, and Don presented at the October WASBA annual conference, but the recording got screwed up. There aren't any recordings of the talks. So if you didn't go, you don't get to hear this really good talk where she makes sense out of all this buzz you hear about vitellogenin, winter bees, fat bodies, and how essential nutrition in the fall is, and getting those mite counts down if you want to have healthy, fat winter bees. There's a picture here of the fat body down in the corner, kind of. It's more than fat. It's like a whole organ of its own. Samuel Ramsey talks about it. That's why Samuel Ramsey's name is actually jammed in there. So we were talking about finding groups. Well, I'll type this up, okay? And then trophallaxis is the one for you're working on your journeyman and above. And then Hive Mind meets tomorrow night, okay? For anybody who came on later, it meets tomorrow night. And you just have to email ginacuff@gmail.com if you want the Zoom link and you weren't already contacted. I gave her some beginner class emails so that she could ask people directly. It's good, really good to have a group like that for support. And then we were looking for especially books. I think a lot of people really want a nice something to read during the winter. Anybody have more books and movies? There's got to be like beekeeping movies that aren't depressing and the bees are all dying and climate change. And then podcasts, those are an easy thing to be listening to while you're commuting. I listen to them while I'm walking. That's when I listen. Beginner books, looking for the best beginner books. What's the one you like? Beekeeping for Dummies. Yeah, I guess so, but so many people have already read that. I didn't put it on here. Anatomy books. Books you can pick up and set down. Books in paragraphs. And you could just read a honey recipe or two, or a little factoid about bees, or a little historical something. And there are some very advanced level ones, which some people are ready for. Some people love anatomy. That's why we have an anatomy section here. And what's your favorite channel too? We should probably do that. My favorite really, I think more and more, is the National Honey Show for videos. There's something about the way the United Kingdom sees, and actually, even when our speakers go over there, Jamie Ellis is a speaker from America. Ricarda Cather, I suspect she is too. Steve Martin isn't. He spoke on the basic life cycles of wasps and hornets. But you could find the entire playlist, National Honey Show lectures, except they don't release the current year, like the ones that they just had the honey show, I think, may have just finished it. They are releasing those like one every month or two throughout the year. So if you didn't sign up and you didn't subscribe and become a member of the National Honey Show, you have to wait for them. But they're worth waiting for. Oh, and we need more hive products. We were just saying, we've got that beeswax workshop that Pat Waymeyer just was mentioning. Okay, anybody more comments? I hope this wasn't a disappointing topic. I think if we get enough links together, it'll make a good list. Okay, history of American beekeeping. Is that Pellet? Is that Frank Pellet? Yeah, I knew. Okay, Frank Pellet. Is he still alive? Because Frank Pellet wrote an incredible number of things. We should put his name somewhere on there, though. I will write that down. Frank Pellet, for example, categorized all kinds of plants with the species and where they are and such. He did the work, the monumental work, like Eva Crane did the incredible world history of beekeeping and honey hunting. She covered the world as best she could and put together, and everybody uses her book as an encyclopedia. It's like a one-volume encyclopedia. And her honey book, nobody's ever redone what she did in honey. She covered all the types of honey, their content, where they were found, the relative amount of sugar in different plants. For example, it's kind of important that your pears don't bloom at the same time as your apples, because pears are low on nectar. The pollen's okay, but they're like half the amount of nectar, of sugar concentration in the nectar of, say, an apple. She did the charts of that, and it's chart after chart after chart of it. Outstanding woman. She spent her life doing it. So yeah, these monumental works. Pellet did a number of them. He worked, I think, for something in the US government, which used to actually employ apiarists in the USDA, and then the various states used to have their own apiarist, and we've lost that concentration. We have more information, more writers, that's good. But yeah, Frank Pellet, somebody is still updating some of his works too. There's something, I've got some of it. Some things that are being actively updated. Some of his are out of copyright, so you can safely digitally download some of them. Don't, and what Michael was holding up was a print on demand book, right? Yeah, you can.
No,
No, it's a new.
Wickwaz Press reprinted this in 2013. It's copyrighted in 1938, and Wickwaz reprinted it in 2013. And yeah, Frank Pellet, he was the field editor for American Bee Journal and the former state apiarist for Ohio or Iowa. I'm sorry. But yeah, that was,
And he did some monumental works. He did a
yes.
lot of small things, but I know he did something on plants, the whole, like, everything that's available out there.
Yeah, there's listed by the author American Honey Plants, Productive Beekeeping, Practical Queen Rearing,
Yeah.
Romance of the Hive. And those are other titles that that he has written. And I
Now,
don't know if Wickwaz Press has all of those or not, but Wickwaz likes to dig up a lot of these older works, and if they are worthy of reprinting, then he puts them out there. So he's a good source for older historical books.
I have a number of his digital copies of a bunch of these because they did copyright expired, so somebody else can. Then when you put it in a format, now you can recopyright it again, your format. But the actual what he wrote, I don't think anybody ever bothered to renew the copyright. So a lot of it is already available. It's been scanned and put into one of those big digital libraries, that's a good thing to have a list of. The Gutenberg project, there's an archives project, and if you dig through them, you could frequently get something like Frank Pellet's books digitally. Sometimes, okay, so somebody took the old book and laid it down and scanned it page by page by page by page, and those are free. It's a lot more convenient to have it in a bound version though. Anyone want to listen to me complain about yellow jackets? They are still in my hives. Matter of fact, I took a picture of them in my hives. Do I have my phone? Okay, come on. Send me anything you think of and I'll put it in. I'll put it in the list because we need a list like this. And nobody's selling us anything. It's what we actually use and read. I'm looking for my honey yellow jacket pictures. Okay, I'm going to show you yellow jacket pictures if no one says something. We're getting down to the end, so goodbye. Anybody who needs anything, if I promised anything like certificates or something I promised you, this is a really good time to tell me I promised you something and I should be producing it because I don't have classes for the next 4 weeks.
So if we have any more history buffs in the group, I see a few people bowed out. Any of the Brother Adam books, but this one, For the Love of Bees, was done by Leslie Bill. And that's a kind of a biography of Brother Adam at Buckfast Abbey. And that's a good book. And then, of course, any of Brother Adam's books, Beekeeping at Buckfast Abbey, he's in a good historical book. In Search. Get the glare off of there. Brother Adam, let's see here, get to the.
And so the Buckfast bee that Brother Adam developed was
Yep.
the solution he came up with to the acarine disease, the Isle of Wight, they called it way back when it happened in something before 1922, because that is why the United States enacts the quarantine of 1922. One of the reasons that it does it. No more live bees are to be brought into the United States from overseas, because the bees were dying out and they didn't know what it was, and it was a tracheal mite. So when Brother Adam did, and actually he met Eva Crane on some of his travels, he actually met her, and he was collecting queens. Now you couldn't collect semen like the artificial inseminators do nowadays, but he collected queens and brought them back to mate them with the native English honeybees to see if he could develop a line that would be resistant to the Isle of Wight, acarine. We now know it as tracheal mites disease. He did that, and he developed the Buckfast bee that you now can pay extra money and buy in the United States, a form thereof, not exactly what he developed. So it was a hybrid bee he had selected, and it did pretty well in that area. He spent his whole life on this. He was a monk at the Buckfast Abbey, which is why it's the Buckfast bee. And they kept bees out on the moors of Dartmoor, which I just know the name, but it's way down there in the south of England, and I guess it's cold and miserable. And if the bees can live there, that's why people want Buckfast bees sometimes, is they figure, well, if the bees can live there, they can live in Western Washington.
Hey, Michael and Eli, do we know of anybody that has Buckfast bees in the area?
They're tricky to
Yes.
maintain, so you get them. Just, Michael, do you know anybody who's actually ordered them?
There's a fellow in the Port Angeles Club, North Olympic Beekeepers. I can't remember his name. Greg Butler would probably recall. He ordered them from Weaver Bees down in Texas. They swear that their bees are not Africanized, but he said they were the meanest dang bees that he'd ever had, and he would never do them again. So there's another company out of Southern Indiana that's licensed to do Buckfast strain here in the US, and I haven't heard how theirs are coming through. The other is up in Canada, up by University of Gulf, and we cannot import them at this time. I actually had an order for 150. It was for 40 queens, and we had to get a health certificate and pay $150 import fee and whatnot. And then it was during the Trump at the start when he was doing his trade war with Canada, and we got shut down and lost our money and the order and everything. We couldn't actually bring the bees in, but we had their certificates and everything ready to ship those queens down here. So, but anyways, the report so far from the Weaver bees, they're an older family down there that's raising bees, and they swear they're not Africanized, but DNA tests on them have actually shown that they do have anywhere from about 4%, 5%, up to 15% Africanized genes in them.
Yeah, the African, I don't know, people suspect Africanized up here, but I think it's just we're reverting to wild type. When I don't think it's a good idea what we're doing with the artificial insemination and the crossing. I don't think we're helping things. We're trying to push the bees in a direction that they don't naturally want to go in, that the evolution would not naturally move at this rate of speed into. So after beekeepers, since basically 1922, we had the same bees pretty much in the United States with no imports until Sue Kobe really started bringing in the artificial insemination, the semen in the liquid nitrogen, so she could artificially inseminate inside the United States and bring a lot of new genetics in. And that really no, she started that early, but it got pushed by colony collapse disorder because everybody wanted something to blame for colony collapse disorder. So that led to a big push for, okay, we've got a genetic bottleneck in the United States because haven't been importing since 1922, and therefore we now need to solve this bottleneck. I'm not really convinced there was such a bottleneck. But when you breed mutts, which is what we're doing, we're taking Carniolan, Caucasian, Russian, whatever genes, and we're getting mutts. With Buckfast, it's supposed to be a controlled hybrids. And the hybrid idea has been really popular in the United States. If you look back, the latest hybrid, I think, was the POL line, the pole line. I don't know how, I haven't heard a lot about it. I don't know why, but the idea was if you could take some known strains and mix them, you would get this bee that gave you the characteristics you're looking for. And there are people who swear by it. The Labradoodle is the one that I don't understand why you would take a lab and a poodle and cross them, but some people love a Labradoodle. I don't know if the male has to be the lab or the poodle or what. So I think we have to expect aggressive bees. And the Buckfast bees, I don't know if they were super docile really, because they were bred with the black bee that is native to Northern Europe and the UK, and that's Apis mellifera. And those are hardy bees. Those aren't bees that were bred to be docile. They have to fight a little harder in a colder climate, so harsher climate. So it makes sense to me that they wouldn't be the most docile, easygoing like the Italians, the American Italian, not necessarily the Italian Italian. Because the American queens were imported right before the quarantine in 1922. There was a big thing about bringing in Italian queens into the United States because the Italians from Europe were resistant to European foul brood. They also happen to be resistant tracheal mites, and that is why when they closed the border between America and Canada, because what Michael Duncan's talking about is you still have to get special permission. The border has never been totally opened up again. They keep talking about it. They start to relax it, then they don't. They debate it all the time. But the border between the United States and Canada, in terms of shipping adult bees across, was closed in 1986 or 87. In 1984, the tracheal mite hit. And in the United States, they said up to 2/3 in some places of the hives died. But you could rebreed from the survivors. And the reason given was that the Italian genetics were still here in our population. But when it came to Varroa, no Apis mellifera had really ever been around Varroa. People claim the Russians were, I'm not sure. So I don't know, the Africanized genes stuff, yeah, mathematically, I don't know if it makes a difference or not. Frederick Dunn really liked the weaver bees and really recommends them. And I don't think he had any aggression problems. Well, there's two weavers down there too. There's two weaver companies. You only buy from the one. I remember he said that. They're like brothers or cousins or something, but one is a good line. So I hope whoever it was that, Michael, that you knew got the good line, but they may not have.
Yeah, back to the Buckfast there again. On the WASBA conference, I believe it was Dr. Erica Shelley that is the co-founder or the CEO and founder of Best for Bees, and she's working with University of Gulf up there doing research. And when I had a conversation with her about buckfast, she said, don't get them. She said, they don't winter well. They don't produce very well. They're calm for the first generation, but if you're open mating, you know, without doing AI, then your second generations are meaner than wildcats. So she was like, did not recommend them. And I had a conversation with Dr. Sue Kobe on WSU breeding there, and she kind of echoed the same thing. This was maybe 3-4 years ago that I had a conversation where she came and spoke to the North Olympic Peninsula bee group. And then after her presentation, we had lunch, and she gave us maybe another hour and a half of her time, of those of us that were queen breeding, queen rearing, and discussing her work as well as other options. And what about these bees? What about buckfast? What about some of these other bees? And she gave us a good talk on the differences between the different ones. So basically, I was really interested in them, but they've got some Egyptian and a few other types of bee in them. Some of the high mountain African bee, not the killer bees, but and they're genetics that we can't get here in the U.S. So in Europe, they have a very calm, docile strain of the buckfast bees that produce okay. They're not great producers, but they produce okay, but they're just super gentle bees. That we can't get those genetics here in the US at all.
Yeah, especially with the open mating, and even the saskatras, which is also another hybrid bee that they have to rebreed it every once in a while, start over again. I don't know how many people deal with that kind of genetics, but sometimes when you inbreed too much, something goes wrong. Well, in the case of honeybees, sort of the opposite. The queens go out and do whatever they want with whatever drone up there, and we have no control over that. I still have the recording on. I probably should turn the recording off because it's getting too long.